Hello and welcome to another edition of YouTalk on YouTube. 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime. Exiting these relationships is the most unsafe time for a victim. On average, it takes a victim 7 times to leave before they stay away for good. Jackie is a mother of 3 who was abused, sometimes violently, for 5 years by the father of her children. Jackie's story is a testament to the fact that you can get out, save yourself, save your children, and prosper. Sometimes Jackie had to work 2 to 3 jobs to provide the basic necessities for her children. But Jackie never gave up. How soon after you started dating did the relationship start to change?
6 months into it, he started disappearing. So I realized when he would come, I would be asleep, but he would be like in a bad mood. So I would pretend to be asleep because I didn't want to deal with it. You know, I didn't want to wake up my daughter, and I didn't want to. They liked the drama. I didn't.
He was antsy. He was in a bad mood.
Exactly.
He was on edge.
On edge, but there was no one. I was tired. I had to go to work the next day. I was in the mood to be woken up at 1 in the morning to hear this. He was very jealous, very, I would say, insecure now. Right. So he would say to me, "You're wearing that?" And that was my reaction. What's wrong with my outfit? I would have to cover up. I would have to wear pants. And I couldn't show my shoulders. I had to wear sleeves and things like that.
So he started controlling you, basically.
I thought nothing of it. I thought it was cute. Okay, he wants me to dress like this. He would pretend like we would match.
Right.
If he was wearing a blue polo shirt, then I would have to wear like a blue shirt. And that was his excuse to change what I was wearing. And
so you guys can match.
But,
it was cute.
Which I thought was cute, but it was really very controlling.
Then it evolved from that into physical abuse, right?
Yes.
And how soon after, how soon did that start?
The shoving was always there. The hair pulling was always there.
Which are the beginning stages of abuse, is when somebody starts shoving you.
I didn't know any of that. There was no resources, there was nothing out there to tell me. Now they have, the first sign is controlling.
Absolutely.
The second sign is the shoving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that would isolate you from everybody else. Make you feel like you're doing something wrong.
He totally isolated me from my family. My family and I were very, very close. We were a close-knit family. He would take my cell phone, or he would lock me in the house. We had the double deadbolt,
right,
and I wouldn't have a key.
He would lock you in the house?
In the house, yes. It got to a point where I had to leave my job and I couldn't work anymore because I couldn't leave the house. Once I had the children, I had to stay in the house. Right. That was the thing. And I'm a legal secretary. I make money. I have skills. I went to college, and I wanted to work. I didn't want to stay home. And no, I wanted to work. But everywhere I went was, why are you looking at the guy? Why are you looking that way? What are you thinking about? Like off the spot, I had to say what I was thinking about. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not thinking. No, I'm just sitting here enjoying the barbecue, thinking this rice and beans is really good. Things like that.
This is going to be a tough question, but how did you find yourself rationalizing his behavior? Like, how did it play itself in your head?
I thought it was love.
He cares about you.
I thought that was what love was. I saw everybody else happy with their family and their husbands and their outings, and that's what I wanted. And it came with a hefty price.
So how did you discover he was using drugs?
I followed him.
Oh, you followed him?
I had to. And I followed him to a crack house. And I thought he was cheating on me. So I pulled up in there, who are you with? And it was a crack house. And the shock on my face was just unbelievable. I had never, ever seen that in my life, ever.
How long did it take you to call a family member or to call somebody or tell somebody about what was going on?
It took me 7 years to get out.
7 years.
To call my mom and say, Mom, I need to leave Florida. Please don't ask me any questions. It was either I left or I died.
It was life and death.
It was life or death.
What was the last thing that he did? What was it that made you decide this is it?
He took, with 3 children, I had a great tax return. He took my entire tax return and spent it in one night. And when he came home, that next morning, he choked me to the point where I was unconscious because there was no more money. There was nothing else he could pawn. He ransacked the house. The children were 2 years old. And I just couldn't. And to have him, I'm pinned on the bed and he's choking me to where I'm passing out. And I have no control. My eyes were bloodshot the next day. I lost consciousness for about 3 minutes. And when I woke up and I just started screaming bloody murder. We lived in an apartment building. So he knew that people were going to come out. So I just started screaming bloody murder and throwing things around because I saw it on TV that neighbors hear you and it's 5 in the morning. And so yeah, he just ran out the house and left. And that's when I picked up and I said, I can't. I pretended like I was going to, we left everything in the house and I just left everything just with the clothes on our backs. Pretended like the children were going to school and I was going to work and we left.
You never came back?
Never came back.
Now, how many, you left after 7 years, but how many, had you tried to leave a couple of times before?
5 times.
You tried to leave
5 times.
Which is typically the case, people try a few times.
And he kept being apologetic and it will never happen again, and that would last maybe 2 months. And then it would just constantly start again.
Was that the first time he choked you?
No, the first time he put his hands on me, he sucker punched me in the eye. And I was flabbergasted. It wasn't a slap. I mean, we were way beyond slapping. That was just part of this dinner's cold slap. You're late. I would walk through the door and he would grab me by the hair and just drag in front of the children. But one day, I think I said something, and we were in front of his mom and his stepdad, and I said something inappropriate. I can't recall what I said, but it was just a joke, sarcastic. And I said, the stepfather asked me why I never come out, and I said, I can't. I used to have bruises at that time from him grabbing me here and shaking me. We were going to a water park, and I couldn't show my bruises, so he said jokingly, why? Are you beat up or something? I said, yeah, that's the story of my life. And out of nowhere, he just sucker punched me.
In front of him?
In front of the mom. The mom was sitting down, and I'm talking to the stepdad, and he just punched me in the face. And I fell to the floor, and my children started crying. And I got up, and I said, what was that for? And he said, for your mouth. Keep it shut. And I said, okay. And everything was just like normal. My eye was swelling up, and it was just like normal. I had to act normal. I couldn't cry. I couldn't say, oh my God, you hit me. That's not right. I just had to take it and pretend like nothing. And ever since then, it just became common, where I would constantly have 2 black eyes, which is why I had to stop working. And he had another daughter too, which is my daughter's age, and I met the mom, and she never once said, hey.
Can we get some tissue?
She never said, hey, once, I left him because at 16 he was a heroin addict,
right.
But yeah, no one, like this day and age, I will tell someone now. Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cry.
No, please, let's remember everything.
Yes, hashing it all out, reliving it. I've kept this bottled up because I was so ashamed. So ashamed. My oldest knew, and she was my rock. She never questioned me. She was just always there for me. Even though she was 5 years old when this started, she just accepted it. And she's my best friend now.
How's she doing today?
She's doing wonderful. She's an FSU student.
Wow.
I'm so proud to say that we are able to live her dream, which was going away to college because I wanted to keep her close to me.
Right.
But yes, she is doing amazing, and I'm so proud of her. So proud of her.
You moved back to Florida. You're staying with your friends in the motel. No family at all?
Nothing. I had no one here, and I didn't want anyone to know. By the grace of God, I saw an ad for a file clerk in a law firm. And I went to a shelter, and they let me have some decent professional clothes, pantyhose, the deal. They hooked up my resume, And I went to this interview. It was on the 12th floor in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And when I went there, I said, I am never getting this job. I went on a Friday at 10 a.m. At 4 p.m., she called me and she said, can you start Monday?
Oh, wow.
So right then and there, this was after about, I would say, 6 weeks in the motel. So what I did was at the motel, I was cleaning the rooms to pay for my stay.
So you'd work during the day at the law firm.
And then
in the evening you'd come home.
I'd have my friend watch the children and while they were doing homework and stuff, and I would clean the rooms till about midnight, 1 a.m., go home, go to sleep, wake up at 6, and start my day.
So have you met anybody new since then? Any new love?
I have met a lot of guys, but I can't get close to anyone. But I'm kind of like emotionally scarred. I have a wall, and no one can penetrate that wall to this day.
Now, forgiveness is not the same thing as condoning, because you need to be able to move on. Have you forgiven him for what he did? Not condoning what he did, but forgiving for what he did. So you
I don't
can
know.
for yourself.
I can speak to him now. We can have conversations. He has seen the children. I can't forgive him. I don't think I could ever forgive him. It went on for a very long time. I guess him and I don't have closure. That's what it is. We don't have closure.
And what would you tell a woman who's in an abusive relationship, whose husband came home last night and punched her because the food was cold?
Get out. Get out. At the very first sign, get out. You may think it's hard. You may think you have no one. You may think there's no money. You may think, how am I going to support my children? You can, and you need to get out. It's not only dangerous physically, but mentally, it will ruin your life for the rest of your life. You will never trust another man, and that's not right. There are so many good guys out there that I can't trust, that I can't let it, and that I don't see. I think every man is out to get me or out to hurt me, and that's not how it is.
So you're out of the relationship, you're in a much better place today, your kids are in a great place. Why did you want to share your story?
I don't want another woman to go through this. I want women to know that we can make it on our own. Yeah, men are great. There are some good men out there, but we do not need a man to survive. I did it on my own. I took myself out of the street, out of poverty, with my 3 children on my back, by myself. It was a hard struggle, but we women are smart and intelligent, and we can get back on our feet. We just can't let him back in. You just gotta leave and get away. Change your friends, change where you live, everything. You cannot let him back in, because it will never change. Once a man puts his hands on you and he knows he can do it without any repercussions, he will continue to do it. I would say out of the 100th time, I've only called the cops twice.
So we're now joined by Dr. Laura Honaker, a Florida licensed psychologist and owner of the Psychological Alliance located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Honaker.
Thank you for having me.
So help us put everything into context. I mean, Jackie's done an amazing job. She's really told her story as clearly as possible, and I think somebody who's going to be watching this she's going to connect with somebody. She felt ashamed for a long time, and shame is part of the whole domestic violence thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Why do people feel so ashamed?
Well, they feel ashamed because they're made to feel guilty and responsible for things that they have no guilt or responsibility to. And as Jackie pointed out, their worlds become increasingly smaller and smaller and smaller boxes. So there's no one providing feedback that says, you didn't do anything wrong. Everybody spills coffee once in a while. Everybody sometimes has a meal that's colder than they expect. You didn't do anything wrong. And she had no one telling her, today I was just Butterfingers. I couldn't keep anything in my hands. So she became very isolated, and she had a partner who heavily reinforced and punished her for things that were not punishable. So the shame and the guilt grew greater and greater. And when she saw happy families on the outside, that made you feel also ashamed and guilty, because obviously you were the cause
Yes.
of the unhappy family.
So how does Jackie or anybody else in an abusive relationship come out of this learning to trust themselves, trust life, and trust relationships?
That is probably the last step in the recovery, is learning how to trust others, including possible dating partners. Well, how do you break down trust? That's a lovely concept, and I agree with you. But trust means, is he where he says he's going to be?
Yes.
Is he happily permitted in his parents' home, or are there people who say, I don't know. Does he have friends and associates that you can talk to? And time. Time. These folks are invariably charming, and they know how to attach. They might say, babe, your life was terrible and mine was too, and together we can make a happy family.
Right.
When there's nothing within them to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And then you become responsible for the unhappy family.
And how is there a way to come out of a marriage that, I hate to use the word failed marriage, but come out of a marriage, but come out of the other side and look at that marriage still as a success because there were children that came out of that marriage. There was still something that came out of it. Am I making sense or not?
No, we actually call that the at least partial transformation of the trauma, and that is when the person gets far enough away and is able to look at the bad things. After looking at the bad things long enough and examining them, then typically some bits and pieces of good memories begin to surface. And we look at those and we find that because there were bits and pieces of good things, that almost made the person stay longer because they thought they could get more good things happening.
Right.
But it is important to remember certain good things that happen and not just wipe the whole thing clear.
How do we avoid making the same choices or mistakes moving forward?
Well, oftentimes we say folks who have been in these relationships have bad pickers because sometimes they've had more than one.
Right.
I think what we need to do as professionals and friends who are good listeners are to sit back and allow the person to talk and not provide them with, oh, let go, or everything will work out, or all is good, any of those things, but ask some questions about how this person behaved, how this person was trustful, how this person interacted when he was angry. If you haven't seen someone be angry, I don't know that I could trust them.
Right.
And so you want to see people in good and bad. You want to be able to step back. Oh, very ugly. And some people are not so ugly, but it does happen. But you have to sit back and have the ability to thoughtfully analyze someone else's behavior, and that increases your trust because you begin to see how you can see what might be coming up next.
But does telling the story over and over and over again and repeating it again and again with the perspective of being a victim, does that keep you in that victim position? Or does that...
No, there's actually a trauma-reducing technique called traumatic incident reduction, which was developed by some veterans of wars who have learned that if you listen carefully and you don't interrupt and you don't comment, but allow the person to talk openly and freely, and then allow them to do that again and again, and eventually you can see the person progress through the trauma until there's a dramatic shift in the affect. At times the person is crying so hard and talking about bits and pieces along with the main incidents, but you will see the time when the person you'll see that shift. And it's amazing, and it's what keeps us trauma therapists going forward, is we see people recover.
Isn't that really non-judgmental listening?
Active listening, it is very hard, and most people are very uncomfortable with it, and they'll give you a cue that they really don't want to hear.
They don't want to hear it. They don't want to deal with it. It's true.
So we have these fantasies in our head of what a relationships are supposed to be, and typically the fantasy and the reality are totally different. And do people stay because they're hoping the fantasy is going to happen if they stay a little bit longer?
Typically, yes, and there will be occasional moments when the person will be very charming, and that is what makes them stay.
It keeps them there longer, because like she said, he'd apologize, and that would last 2 months, and then it would happen again, and then those are the perfect 2 months, and then he'd apologize, and then you think, okay, maybe this time he'll do it a little bit longer.
Well, you know, it's like if you're in school and you're having a hard time with a topic, but every once in a while you get an A in that weekly quiz, you're going to stick out that course.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So, Jackie, let me ask you this. I like to ask a lot of people this question. Is there a song out there that you relate to that you say is your theme song, that you just, when it comes on, it just makes total sense to you? What is your theme song?
Titanium. Shoot me down, but I won't fall.
Shoot me down, but I won't fall. Thank you so much for telling your story. I really appreciate it. I honestly believe that somebody watching this, it's going to connect with somebody who needs to hear this and needs to be able to get out of whatever situation you're in. So I really, really thank you for telling your story. So thank you, Jackie, and thank you so much, Dr. Honaker, for helping put this in context for us.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today, and Jackie, I am so proud of you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me tell my story, and I really hope I can help someone out there. You are not alone. You are not alone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye. I hope Jackie's story lights the spark that encourages you to make the phone call that could save your life. If you are in an abusive relationship, please get help now. Call a friend, a family member, or a help hotline. There are people standing by, waiting to help you. Jackie's story is evidence that you can get out and have a successful and healthy life for you and your children. Thank you for watching YouTalk on YouTube.